Self-sufficiency is a lie. I can't tell you how long I've thought that I have to be able to support myself, that I should be self-sufficient, that I shouldn't need anyone else, that I shouldn't need external permission or external support or accountability, that if I was really, truly aligned and enlightened and if I'd really made it, then I would be able to be everything for myself, that I would have everything that I need in here, and that basically everybody else in the world could just cease to exist and I would be okay, that I would be fine because I have everything that I need in here. But the more that I've learned about nature and the real world, the less I think that's true, because nothing on earth exists all by itself in a vacuum. There is no creature or plant or mineral or rock or water ecosystem that exists as its own thing, completely separate from all other things. Everything in this world is connected to something else. It receives from something else, it gives to something else. And I think that humans are unique in that we think we should be able to support ourselves. We should be able to exist without being connected to anything else. I mean, in my neck of the woods, we idolize people who are self-sufficient and they live off-grid. I can only speak for the American psyche because that's where I grew up and who my family is. We're all Americans. We celebrate the pioneer who left their home and they were self-sufficient and they could make their own shoes and they could grow their own food and they could build their own houses and they could do everything they needed to do for themselves. They didn't need other people to do it for them. They could go live like Ma and Pa Ingalls in the wilderness and be okay. But I would like to point out that even people who live off-grid and they're completely disconnected from the rest of human society, they're only surviving because they are connected to and supported by nature. Someone who's off-grid might be off-grid from a city's water supply, electrical supply. They might not need other people to grow food for them. They might be able to grow their own food, but they're dependent on solar. They're dependent on streams of water, well water. They're dependent on food growing on their land. We don't talk or hear about the people that try to be self-sufficient, but that can't integrate with nature. They don't make it. They don't stay off-grid. They don't stay out in the boonies. They don't stay in the wilderness of Alaska. They have to move back to society that can help support them because they couldn't integrate with nature. So the point of me saying that is that everybody is connected to something, whether that something is nature and you are off-grid and away from other humans and you're plugged into the natural cycles and you're dependent on nature, or you're part of human society and you live in a city and you get your water from a pipe and your electricity from a plug. Okay, like you're still connected to something. So even people off-grid are not self-sufficient. They are dependent on and interdependent with an ecosystem of some kind. And if we go to the opposite extreme and we say, well, I'll be self-sufficient in the fact that I will make all of my own money and I'll be financially independent and I won't need a job. I won't need to be dependent on someone else to pay my bills. Like I will be able to do it all myself, which is, I've gone from both extremes, to be honest. Like at first I wanted to be off-grid and not talk to other people and never need other people. And then I didn't want to need other people because I wanted to be rich and self-sufficient in wealth in that way. But if you think about that everybody is connected to something, the people who are self-sufficient financially, they don't need a job. They don't need other people to contribute to their wealth. How did they get their money? How did they make their money? They were supported by other people giving them their money. You think of Jeff Bezos and Amazon, like as far as finances goes, he's the most self-sufficient person in the world. But where did that money come from? Other people. If you think of any business, how is it supported? By its customers. So nothing is self-sufficient. Nothing is isolated. Nothing exists in a vacuum. Even beggars are being supported by other people's compassion. Even people on the side of the street asking for money, they are connected to the part of human society that wants to care for other people. I don't want to be a beggar, so I tell myself that it's more moral, more honorable to trade for what I need. So the most fundamental interconnectedness is an exchange. It's a trade of resources. So in the case of people living off grid that are successful in that, they are trading with their environment. So they're receiving solar power and water and food from the earth, but they're giving back care for the ecosystem, for the land. They are husbanding. That's where we get the word husbandry. They're husbanding the land. They're taking care of it. They're providing structure for it. Husband, a little side note here, the word husband comes from the words house and band. It's like providing a container and structure and support and protection around something else. And so humans are supposed to, according to the Bible, humans are supposed to husband nature. We are here as caretakers of nature. So the people who are successful off grid are the ones who do that well. And they are successfully protecting and supporting their land, their ecosystem that they are dependent on. And so they're not dependent on it anymore. Now they're interdependent. So they're trading something with something. They're trading their time, their expertise, their care for food and water and electricity. And when we think of really wealthy people, they're trading their knowledge, their experience. They've built a track record, so to speak, of things that other people find valuable. And so they have a lot of options of people to trade with because a lot of people want what they have. And so they've been able to collect and keep a lot of that they've traded for. Now, keeping it all is not the same as being successful. And I'm probably going to go into that in a different video. But an equal trade, if we're talking about trading things, an equal trade leaves no one in debt. And so I don't want to be a beggar. I don't want to go sit on the side of the street and ask people to give me money for nothing, because I would feel like I wasn't pulling my weight, like I wasn't contributing in some way. I would feel like I was at the mercy of people being compassionate, and I don't want to be vulnerable in that way. I don't want to be dependent on other people's compassion in order to survive. But if I want to have a business, I will still be dependent on other people wanting what I have and wanting what I have to trade, because that's all business is. It's just trading. It's trading something for something that the other person has. Now, we use money as a wild card in between because most of us live too far away from the people that we're trading with to be able to actually give them services or goods in exchange for services and goods. And so we use money as a wild card. You could literally use Monopoly money as a wild card. You could use wampum as a wild card. You could use beads and shells and leaves and any other thing that people have used as money in centuries of cultural history. It's just a wild card. It's a token that says, I put this much of what I have into this thing. You can take this thing and then trade it for an equal amount of other things. That's all money is. So if we take money out of the equation and we just think about trading as the way the world works, I'm still dependent on other people wanting to trade with me. So I'm still dependent on other people wanting what I have to trade, what I'm willing to trade, and I'm dependent on other people liking me enough to want to trade with me, because human beings still have this fear of rejection. Because if people don't want to trade with you anymore, then they can blackball you. They can cut you out of their society. They can shun you. They can refuse to trade with you. Even if you have something that they want, they could say, I don't want to trade with that person. I'll go find that thing and trade with someone that I like. And so I think that's why we get super wealthy people who are also people that other people don't like Jeff Bezos, because maybe, this is me speculating based on human nature, maybe he's afraid that other people won't want to trade with him. They won't want to play with him. And so he sits on all of the resources, so that way you have to trade with him. There's no other choice. And that's where we get violence and mistreatment of people, because people are afraid that other people won't want to trade with them. And so they gather up all of the resources that are essential and they sit on it and they say, you don't have a choice. You have to trade with me because you need this to survive. And I think that's what people are responding to now about like anti-capitalism and whatnot. I think it's subconsciously realizing that there's a few bullies who have sat on all the resources and said, you have to trade with us, you don't have a choice. And we're realizing we do have a choice and we can trade with each other instead, which was a complete side note. But the point is that being able to trade freely with each other is what free market capitalism is supposed to be. We're not talking about maximizing profits. We're not talking about controlling resources. We're not talking about getting a monopoly free market capitalism is saying, I have this thing, you have that thing, want to trade. And then because of our society working the way it does, we trade for money first and then trade for the other thing. So money ends up in the middle of it. But at the end result, we're trading things. We're trading time, we're trading energy, we're trading expertise, we're trading attention, we're trading knowledge, we're trading skill, we're trading physical objects, non-renewable resources. Money just happens to be in the middle of it. And so when we think about being part of the world, whichever end of the spectrum you want to be on, anti-people, 100% with nature, or mostly against nature, unfortunately, right now, in order to be in cities with other people, you're still interconnected with an ecosystem, a society of some kind. There is no complete independence. And I don't remember where I learned this. I wish I could quote or point to a source. But the progression of growth, for humans at least, goes from dependence to independence to interdependence. And I think a lot of us are stuck between dependence and independence, and we don't even know or don't have the time to think about interdependence. So I'm not going to say that there's a particular point in life where you're supposed to graduate to the next level, because everyone grows at different speeds and at different paces depending on what kind of person you are. We're all our own individual kind of plant. So we get to grow at our own speed. But in general, we can think obviously babies are dependent. They cannot take care of themselves. If you left a baby alone by itself, it would die. It's dependent on its parents or a caregiver to take care of it and make sure it has the resources it needs to survive. And then you grow from a child to independence, where you can do things for yourself. You start to have your own resources, your own skills, your own knowledge, your own expertise. So you're not dependent on someone else to give those things to you anymore. Now you have the independence of creating them yourself, of being them yourself. But I feel like most of us are being pressured by society to either be dependent or be dependent or be independent. Either we can't make it on our own, and so we feel ashamed for still being dependent when we feel like we should have moved on. I'm thinking of adult children who live at home because we can't afford rent. So we feel like, well, we should be past that point by now. And in nature, there are things that can't support themselves, that can't provide for themselves. And unfortunately, we call those parasites. And parasites has a very negative connotation. And so, I mean, I've heard people talk about adult children that are still dependent as being parasitical, which is unfortunate. A lot of times it's not within our control whether or not we can be independent. So I'm not blaming anybody who is dependent on someone else currently. I am very dependent on someone currently. If my husband and my mother-in-law didn't take care of me, I would be starving in the hedgerows. Right now, my personal income is $300 a month. So this is very raw for me right now. So I feel like I am dependent. I feel like I should be independent by now. I should be able to provide for myself. I should be self-sufficient. And I've been thinking a lot lately that maybe it's unreasonable. It's unreasonable to expect myself to be self-sufficient. If we're thinking about it from a point of dependence means you have to receive everything, and independence means you have something of your own. I have gotten to the point where I have something of my own. I have all kinds of skills, all kinds of things I can do. I know things, I can learn things, I can make things. I am independent in the sense that I don't need someone else to give me literally everything in order to survive. And so I'm learning to see where I am right now, not as a dependent state and not as a struggle to be independent, but more an acceptance and a realization of that I am interdependent with my husband and my mother-in-law. They provide this house. They provide food. They provide support and transportation and stability. And I provide things into the relationship as well. I provide emotional support. I provide cleaning. I do all the cleaning. I provide cooking. So I make the food. I provide doing the laundry. I provide friendship and companionship and understanding and grace. And I provide connection for my husband, especially. He's quite the introvert. I mean, I am too. And he would rather just stay home and work. And I help him branch out into making friends and going places. And so when we take money out of the equation, it's easier to see how things really are. And that's hard for me to do because I still think in terms of money most of the time. I still think, well, he's making this much and I'm making this much, and I should be making more. I should be contributing more. I should be pulling my own weight. I should be supporting myself. I'm a burden on him. I'm just mooching off of him. Like, the ideal is to be self-supporting and support other people. Like, I need to be able to support myself and support other people. And if I have to lean on anyone else, then that's failing, or that's being a burden on them. Maybe there's different kinds of people, just like there's different kinds of plants. Maybe I've been expecting myself to be a tree that grows on its own, that stands tall no matter what, that doesn't need any external structure or support to remain strong. And maybe I'm not a tree. Maybe I'm a vine. Maybe I need something to grow on. Maybe I need something structural to create a container for me to grow upwards. Vines will grow along the ground, but then they're likely to get stepped on or eaten or destroyed by passing animals and humans. So for a vine to be healthy, it needs something to grow on. And when it has something to grow on, then it provides things in return to the plant that is giving it structure. If we think of the Three Sisters, which I keep coming back to a lot in Avocado Entrepreneur, the Three Sisters is a guild planting of 3 different kinds of plants that all support, and they provide something to that miniature ecosystem that the other plants can't provide for themselves. So corn is tall and strong, and it provides the framework. Beans is a vine, which grows around corn. Its leaves help protect corn from being sunburned. But beans is a nitrogen fixer, and so it will pull nutrients from the air and bring them down into the earth and it will convert and deposit the nitrogen from the air into the soil so that corn can use it. And then squash, which is the third sister, sits at the bottom and spreads her broad leaves out over the soil, and she prevents moisture evaporation. So when the sun bakes the earth and the dew rises, it gets caught on the bottom of squash's leaves, and so it falls back down and waters the system again. And so without squash, corn and beans would not have enough water. Without corn, squash and beans would not have anything to grow around. Without beans, squash and corn would not get the nutrients that they need because they cannot provide nitrogen for themselves. And so I'm wondering, maybe, in my relationship specifically, my husband is corn and I am beans. And maybe I have been telling myself that I need to be corn this whole time. And I've been beating myself up because I'm not corn. And I've been telling myself that I'm not good enough and I'm not where I should be and I'm lacking and I'm a burden on everyone else because I am not. And maybe, just maybe, we don't need 2 corns next to each other. When you have a whole bunch of the same kind of plant growing in a field, that's called a monoculture, and it generally is bad for the environment, for the ecosystem. Monocultures strip the soil of the nutrients that specific monoculture uses the most. When the monoculture is, I'm thinking specifically of cornfields because of this analogy, when they're harvested and the stubble is left, it's more likely to experience erosion because now that whole area is vulnerable to wind and water. And so maybe people, just like plants, do better in a permaculture environment, a multiculture, where you have all the different plants working together to provide different resources, to be different elements in the ecosystem. And when you have all of them working together, the system is self-sustaining. You don't have to bring in fertilizer. You don't have to bring in water. You don't have to bring in shade or build support structures or spray for pests because the plants in the coalition support and nurture each other. And I think that our society, our modern society, our American modern society specifically, celebrates independence. We are the country that left our mother country and became independent. And that is like an ingrained part of our identity. But America as a country is still fairly young, all things considered. And we went from dependence to independence. And now I think as a culture, we are beginning to see that there is another step, there is another stage of becoming that we need to take. And so individually, I personally am thinking about, what does it mean to be interdependent naturally? Like, what do I naturally need from other people? And what do I naturally give to other people? And not to think that I need to provide everything for myself and have everything in myself and be self-sufficient, but to accept that I need things from other people that I can't provide for myself. And that's okay, because I am also providing things to other people that they can't provide for themselves. And so we are interdependent. We are connected. We are important to each other because we wouldn't be able to stand alone. So what do you think? How are you feeling about dependence and independence and interdependence? What do you think you need? What kinds of things do you need from other people, and what do you give to other people? What kind of plant are you?